I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yeah, hi everybody. Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Welcome. Today's guest is Mark A. Mark's a friend of mine, and Mark's an ex-heroin addict whose life was full of crime and pain. And during active addiction, he tried to be a dad to young children. He was in a trade and done his best, but now, how funny thing how things turn around. Now Mark works in the industry of helping other people get out of the grips of their afflictions. And so let's go, Marky. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. So what do I just
talk about, Marky?
Addiction.
Yeah.
So I was in active addiction for like 26 years. I started, I think normally where I grew up, that everyone was smoking dope and drinking piss by 12, 13, and it just progressed for me. I was using acid by 14, dealing acid by 15, using amphetamines by 17, and found heroin at 19. I was lucky enough to finish a trade between 15 and 19. I'm pretty lucky I got that piece of paper before heroin really took over. Heroin really did take over. I loved it. I didn't have to feel anything. I didn't worry about anything. Within 5 years, I was in so much trouble. My first serious offence on a post office was 19, and they just threw heaps of stuff at me, dragged that out for 5 years, and going to breach me, send me to jail. I ended up in my first rehab at 24, and I was a mess by then. I was like 48 kilos, already had Hep C, and I looked like I was dying. So that was the start of my first introduction to like recovery and another way. And I spent a long time in that rehab, like 10 and a half months. I got kicked out of there 5 times, and they let me keep coming back. I didn't stay clean for long. I couldn't comprehend that drugs were the problem. Well, everything else was the problem. And I got out of there pretty healthy, physically healthy and that. Met my wife, had a couple of kids, was using with her within 6 months. We had a couple of kids, and my addiction just took off again. The crime and that I was doing between like 26 and 30, I ended up in jail for a few years in 99 for armed robberies with violence. I got pinched for 2 of them. I did get sentenced to 4 years, but I ended up doing 2. It just hung over my head for a few more years. I had my 2 children taken off me in beginning of 2003. And they were only 2 and 4 at the time. They had docs come and took them off me and my wife. My wife was a heroin addict as well. And although I say heroin addict, I'll use anything that I can get my hands on, anything that's in front of me. Alcohol and pot were a daily thing. That was just like eating and breathing, alcohol and pot. Pills and anything else. I would mix substances together because that's how I would get the most effect. I was always been about effect and getting almost as close to unconscious as I can was how I'd like to be. And I ended up in another rehab in 2003 when my kids got taken off me. I spent like a year there and stayed clean, had a reprieve, and was pretty serious about changing things, and nearly a couple of years clean. And I just had that one at the end of 2005. I was about 3 weeks off 2 years clean. And I just listened to my head one day and I went and used heroin. And that one turned into another 5.5 years, and I lost my wife and kids and everything. At the end of my using there, 2010, I'd tried a couple of times to kill myself, like massive overdoses with big mouthfuls of pills, and come pretty close once. I woke up in ICU like 3 days later, and that was I was living in men's hostels, and like just I was at a point where I couldn't even do crime. I couldn't even put an urn together. I was robbing people for just shit, and drinking like $5 port. Like I didn't have the energy in active addiction anymore. I was 40 by then, and I just was tired. I was just tired of all the bullshit. I was really sick and tired of being sick and tired. And yeah, so I ended up in my third rehab at 40 years old, and that was like the first time in my life I just did what other people do. I put my hands up and said, I can't do this. I'm not good at life. I realised it wasn't just about the drugs. I just couldn't live without substances. I didn't know how to. I never had. And yeah, I just think that was a turning point to finally go, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone please help me. And I just followed what other people told me to do. I spent about 8 months in that rehab. And so I spent nearly 3 years in rehabs over that 17, 18 years, whatever it was. And I can say since then, 40, I'm coming up to 52. I've been clean ever since. So I'm a couple of months over 11 years clean. Completely substance free is just not a concept that I ever thought that would be me or my life. My belief was I needed a substance to get through the next hour. I don't even mean the day. I had to put something in every couple of hours. Most of my life, a day in addiction was for me to open my eyes. I used to take sleeping pills as soon as I woke up. Like most people do that the other way around. I'd smoke pot. I'd have a shot of speed. I'd go to work. I was a boilermaker. I had a trade. I still went to work, had a wife and kids. I could still provide money and stuff for my family. And I also could provide love, but I wasn't actually emotionally very present or available for people. My wife and kids grew up in a household where what most people would think is unacceptable shit from my kids saw became acceptable, a normal part of life. And whoever, coming through the door or hiding in the bedroom, mixing up, or the police coming to get me, my kids just got used to all that sort of shit. It's like not a normal life, but in our household it was pretty normal. And my kids, grew up in that as well. And my most fortunate gift is I was about a year clean, and my oldest daughter was 14, left her mother and came to live with me. A year later, the 12-year-old, my other daughter, left their mother and came to live with me. And they still live with me now, 11 years later. So, the biggest gift for me, and other than what I feel inside, and my life's heaps better than it was using, I can honestly say from me healing and being in recovery, the ripple effect in those two kids' lives, because I'm not going to go into that too much, but they got issues. They've the collateral damage from the way they grew up, they've been affected by my active addiction. But in me healing, 10, 11 years in, I see them healing as well. So, that's one of the greatest gifts. I suppose another point, like I was about 6 years clean, and my body copped a beating over, nearly 30 years of using, and 30 years as a boilermaker. And I decided I wanted to do something different. Like I'd always been a taker. I've always taken things from people. It was a bit like a leech, just moving from host to host. And then I wanted to do something different. And having lived experience, like I ended up in the AOD, alcohol and drug sector, and I've been working in that for 6 years, and I'm really passionate about not just recovery, but giving to people. It's like for me, it's like it is like a living amends. It's like an atonement for all the shit I did to the community in 20 odd years that I really do want to give instead of take from people. So yeah, my life's very different now. Like I've got things that I didn't even dream of when I was using, and I always need to be vigilant, be grateful, and I've still got friends of mine and people I've known for 30 odd years in active addiction. Not that I have much to do with people like that, but I still get phone calls from mates of mine I've known since I was 15. And to hear like 45, 50, 55-year-olds still stuck in that exact same shit that we were doing at 20 is really sad. I just had a phone call the other day with a mate of mine, and his life is no different than what we were doing 30 years ago.
Mm.
And I think for me, like I just never grew up. I love substances, but also part of just emotional and growing up and that. Like I would just thought, really, that I was on this one big party. I was still behaving like a 18-year-old at 40 and thinking that's what life was about. I wasn't. I mean, when I think about work and a family and a wife and kids and the commitment and what you say and you love them and all that shit that goes on in life, none of my actions said that. I wasn't really a man in active addiction. I was pretty much just like a shell of a man and just existing. It wasn't even really living. And, I never thought I could live clean. And now I feel like I'm living. And I really feel like I wasted a lot of years. Not that I regret that stuff. It made me who I am today. But it's a shame, like I feel like I started my life all over again at 40. And, I'm grateful for the time I've got now. The first half was really colourful. Hopefully the second half of my life will be, peaceful and of giving and, receiving love. And there wasn't a lot of that going on in my active addiction. So.
Yeah, something you touched on. Like I talk to old mates who are still caught in the old world, and I did a podcast with a young girl yesterday. She's 23 years of age. Her dad was a mate of mine, and he died of a heroin overdose at 70 years of age.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, like he used right up to the day he died. He died of a heroin overdose at 70 years of age, and he was living in a little housing commission, one bedroom. It was the same as Estelle.
Yeah.
In a little bed sitter in Botany or La Perouse, right near the prison where him and I both sort of grew up. And but this guy wasn't a street kid. This guy came from a really good family. Came from the bush, good family, good upbringing, and quite intelligent. But this disease just had him, and he could never get out of it. He was on the methadone for 100 years, and his legs used to swell up, and he couldn't walk. And in the end, they had carers coming to their house to bring his food to him.
Mm.
And I could just see that being me. If I hadn't been blessed enough to find a way out and to be prepared to do the work, I say to everybody, everybody can get clean and maintain a clean lifestyle and get into a recovery process, but they have to do the work. It's not by osmosis.
No.
So you must have done a lot of work over the last 10 years.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. Like when I think back, like it's still work now, but the first couple of years it was, I couldn't comprehend it was a lifestyle change. I couldn't comprehend, I thought I was just going to put down the drugs and everything was going to be sweet after that. And, it wasn't just about the drugs. I needed to change in here because it was my attitude and my thinking that told me I needed something to get through whatever, the day, the situation, the hurdle, the obstacle. I couldn't face life on life's terms without a substance in my body. Like I'd use 6 things a day. Like I started to say before, I'd go to work out of it every day of my life. I'm a Boilermaker. It wasn't really out of place in that industry. and I'd go to the pub at lunchtime. You just mentioned methadone. Like, I was on the methadone for like 14 and a half years. Took all my teeth. In 14 years, I got married in like 97. I had all my teeth. I got a couple fixed up for the wedding photos because a couple were broken, not from fighting, and I got them fixed. And when I think about that, 14 years later, I had most of them ripped out and got dentures by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
Methadone was just being handcuffed to that chemist. That's a next level thing as well. When I think about, we talk about addiction, like there was just no freedom in that. We couldn't even go away for a weekend, organising takeaways and, all the shit that goes on with methadone is just putrid.
And if you've got your takeaway, you use them in one day anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we manipulate the system, and I was working. I managed to, talk to the people at methadone clinics. They knew me like a friend. I'd been going there for 15 years. They watched my children grow up. And, they've been dealing with me, see me at my worst for 15 years. And I used to get like 4 takeaways a week. And I'd be hiding in the smoko room in front of other blokes, like drinking me methadone. I'd use all that. I'd have to get heroin that afternoon, after work. It was like uppers in the morning sort of thing, whatever to get me going. And in the afternoon, try and, get a bit of a nod up by 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. You'll pass out on the lounge, and that's the day. Get up and do it again.
Yeah, exhaustion was stoned.
And just that's existing.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's sad. It's sad. I remember in 1985 when I relapsed and I went on the methadone. I'd been on it in the 70s, but I was only on it for a court case, and it was all bullshit. I wasn't even taking it. I had so much heroin that was just basically, sometimes I was swallowed, sometimes I spit it out. It didn't matter. But in 85 when I got on it, I'd only been on it for about 10, 15 weeks, and I was walking up a ramp at the railway station to go pick up my dome, and my muscles started burning. And I thought, Jesus Christ, what's this? And I spoke to the psychiatrist that put me on the methadone, and he said, oh, that's normal. It's just getting into your system. It's getting into your body. And I'll never forget this. It's 36 and a half years ago, and I said to him, I want to come off. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go back to some sort of other programs. I'm going to go back to 12 steps. I'm going to go back to something else. And he started laughing, and he said, oh, you've already tried that. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
36 and a half years later, I'm still clean, and I jumped off that filthy, rotten methadone. Because, as you said, it was a chemical handcuff. It was filthy, rotten, horrible. Yeah. I couldn't even get it had me so bad, I couldn't even get I think I can't remember what it was. It was $20 a day or $2 a day. I can't remember, but I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get that $2 or that $20 a day to go to get my dome.
The juggling of money and we used to, if I wasn't very nice. I wasn't a very nice person. You can take the drugs, add the drugs, but I just wasn't very nice. I would abuse the chemists, and then you'd get cut off from them, and then you're running around trying to find another chemist on that side of town that was willing to dose you, and go there for a few months, blew up. There was only one or two at the end. After 14 years, there was only a couple of chemists that would put up with us.
Yeah. I just laughed. There was a girl I was seeing. I got out of jail, and this girl was like a professional visitor. She used to come and visit blokes in jail because there's no emotional connection, there's no commitment, So she'd write you letters while you're in jail, and you'd get out and just check up with her, Not like I was about number 9 in the list of blokes that had got out and gone and shacked up with her. And she was on methadone, and the way she'd show you her love is she'd go to the chemist and she'd get her daily dose, and she'd only swallow half and spit the other half in your mouth when you'd be waiting outside the chemist.
Beautiful.
So you knew that was deep. It was a deep relationship. You knew she loved you. And if she give you some Seropax, that was like you were on.
She really
you were starting to get really committed to each other by then. Mate, that poor girl. I wonder, if she's still alive today. It's been a long time, but that was crazy. Just the madness of her on the dome and her. I used to watch her juggle the Seropax and then taking the Ritalin and then trying to the Ritalin to get her going, the Surupex to put her to sleep. I think she was on about 140 mil a day, and she'd been on it for 100 years.
Yeah.
I remember, that is one of the drugs. And then now they've got this new thing called Subutex.
Yeah.
Did you ever go on that?
So I've done all of those things, and that last that last 5.5 year relapse and the one before, I'd tried all the Campril. There's a few different blockers, Campril, naltrexone. I was on the Subutex, the Brute at the end there, trying to help me get off the methadone, jump down to that. Yeah, I don't know. The problem with me, and I know it's the same for, those things might work if I stop using heroin.
But eventually one day you've got to stop, and we still have to address our thinking problem.
The stuff underneath.
We still have to address our trauma and our thinking problem and the way we act and the way we react in life and lifetimes.
And that's the biggest thing. I'm still realising stuff now.
Yeah.
Now, this 11 years clean, that I've still got trauma and issues that were they're contributors, underlying influence as to why I felt the need. I couldn't feel my feelings. I couldn't process shit. I didn't know how to do sadness or hurt or, I get angry or I just want to get smashed. I want to be out of it and on the nod. So I don't have to face up to anything. I couldn't face up to life, really. I could face up to things like work, man. Life sort of looked pretty normal, I suppose. What a life is you're supposed to do: get married, have a few kids, pay the bills. But everything was a fucking juggling act, emotionally and externally. Life was. I often refer, because I work with people in early recovery, I refer to my life like one of those clowns at the circus that spins plates.
Trying to keep everything going.
So, I could do that for a couple of years. But usually internally, once one of them comes down, they all come down. Everything goes to shit. Or whatever it is, the law step in. Or
I
get messy. Or, I get pinched for something. It affects the family. I'm locked up. Or whatever. I get the sack. I don't pay the rent. We get evicted. Fuck, the shit I did to my kids. There was twice in our addiction when my kids were little. I had 2 stepkids as well. And the choice for me, there was twice where we were warned, if you're late or don't pay your rent again, you're evicted. When the money comes into the bank, full well knowing what's going to happen, I'll use instead of paying the rent, right? And twice we've had the police and locksmiths turn up at the house. The grassie's helping me move everything out onto the footpath. A whole house load of stuff out onto the footpath with my kids standing there.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And a locksmith changed the locks and everyone drives away.
It's insane. It's insane to think that human beings can do that to each other, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're suffering with. And, addiction is a mental health issue. I think people are starting to become aware of it now, that it's not a moral issue, which for years it was treated as a moral issue, it was treated as a crime, it was treated as a bad person. This is what my whole program's about, is telling people that just because we use drugs, we weren't born devils, we weren't born with horns and tails, we're not second-class horrible citizens, we made some really bad mistakes, and some of us come from shit upbringing, some came from great upbringings, Bob Hawke's daughter was a heroin addict. Neville Rand's daughter, I think, was involved in an amphetamine murder. Some really serious shit goes on with people that are society's pillars of society. I don't want to mention other names, but I know lots of people who came from this high class social economic families that I've detoxed in rehabs and done my program. That's the crazy part about it.
It is. I see that stuff at work every day of the week. I can have 18-year-olds or 55-year-olds.
Yep.
And
judges.
Yeah.
Lawyers.
Doctors. Neurosurgeons, all sorts of coppers.
Yep.
I see everything. It doesn't discriminate.
Officers, we've had them all.
The crazy thing about it, what's so similar is people can look like they have the remnants of a normal life, but you know what? I still see the similarities from 18 or 60 years old, that there's still something inside that they've never looked at, never faced up to, never taken responsibility for. It was just this Band-Aid for 30 years. Substances just are a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
So I don't have to look at or face something or deal with something.
It's really funny. I have a 17-year-old kid that I'm looking after at the moment, and he went to rehab when he was 15, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, it's really funny. The guy I became friends in rehab with was a 50-year-old ice addict, and this kid's a 15-year-old ice addict. This kid come from a really good family, really good standing and a very intelligent kid, But the guy he related to was this guy who was a 50-year-old derelict ice addict, and it was because of the way he felt.
Yeah.
And this 50-year-old ice addict was still talking shit like an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And the 18-year-old kid was relating to him on the degradation and dereliction and also plugging into how cool it was to get on the pipe and, and all that bullshit, And it's just funny because this horrible disease that we suffer with, it doesn't care where you came from. It doesn't care what your surname is or what your religion is or what your sexual identity is or anything like that, But what I love about recovery is recovery doesn't care where you came from either.
No.
So, we can all get clean. That's the message that this podcast is about is just because you use drugs and you had a terrible life or you made some bad choices, big deal. Big deal. That was yesterday. We've only got today. Now, we can change our life. I don't mean to be sarcastic when I say this, but I hear all these people going, "Oh, we're going to change the world. We're going to change the world." Just change yourself.
Yeah.
If everybody changed themselves, the world will change. We don't have to change the world. We have to change ourselves, And that's what I believe recovering addicts, people with this affliction or whatever you want to call it, disease, or I don't care what, as I don't care about the philosophical bullshit and the data and the statistics of what this addiction is. All I care about is what the data and the statistics is about recovery. And that to me is results. Yeah. I'm a result-driven person. You know what I mean? Look, as you know, I ran a rehab in prison, and it's quite funny. I'm just sitting there looking over here, and I found this today. It's really weird. This thing here is called recovery. And it says it's an inside job. Have you been to prison yet? You're eligible too. If not, why not? Recovering addicts from Barellan Correctional Centre invite you to share Australia's first prison NA convention, the 2nd of October 2010. Form 27 must be completed. Now, this is a flyer that we sent out to people in recovery centres all around Queensland, all around Australia, really, because the general manager of that prison, Barellan Correctional Centre, which was a private centre run by Serco, he believed in recovery, and he was letting me run a convention in a prison. It was going to be one of the greatest things. And what happened was he moved, and the new GM came in, who was head of security, and he just was a stand-in GM, and he didn't want recovery. He didn't want prisoners to be recognised as having problems.
Yeah.
So he undermined the whole drug unit that we had and destroyed it. But we are getting there. We're slowly getting there. People are starting to become aware. The information is getting out there that, good people make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And bad people make good decisions.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get there. We're starting to get to a point I believe, in society that people are starting to understand that we have made some mistakes. Okay, big deal. That's what we're doing today that matters.
Yeah.
Really, and for ourselves.
It does. Like, I don't, even thinking about that for a minute, like, clean now. Like, I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
I did grow up in a pretty normal sort of house, and with love, and I knew right and wrong. There was something, but even though by 13 or something, I was attracted to, I don't know, playing up, and I was rebellious, and wanted to be with the rebellious people. It wasn't cool to do the right thing, but I did lots of things in that my active addiction that weren't good, but that doesn't define who I am.
Exactly.
That was just, I did some horrible stuff.
Yeah.
But like I try and, one of my, things I try and live by now is to not do harm.
Yeah, sure.
To not do harm. Like, I have to accept and live with some of the stuff that happened. I'm not saying I regret it, but I accept it. But it's not who I am. That's just stuff I did.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I was listening to another friend of mine, he was on a strange story the other day, and he's an armed robber. And they talk about it. And he said, because he's in redemption now, and he said, I never understood what I was putting the other people through when I was putting a gun in their head and demanding the money. And for someone in active addiction, I've had a gun put at my head and robbed. And because I was so dysfunctional and so disconnected from my emotion, I didn't have the normal fears but because of the lifestyle we lived, that was normal. We called that normal, I remember, when I got robbed by the bike and they broke my jaw and my cheekbone, hit me with a tyre lever and held a 38 at my head, and told me that, they're going to blow my head. They're going to kill you, Turkey. We're going to kill you, And I'm not a tough guy. I don't pretend to be a tough guy. I wasn't afraid. I was angry. I was really angry, and because when you're using, a lot of people don't get this, we want to die. It is a form of self-abuse.
Yeah.
Intravenous drug use is a form of self-abuse. Yeah. I believe it is,
Yeah.
I know at different times when I've been trying to inject myself with different homemade syringes in prisons, the complete, anger and abuse that I was doing into myself trying to put this chemical away, and
get it in, however.
Yeah, it didn't matter, and it's quite sad, but as you and I both know, it's not the war stories, it's the past that made us who we are today.
Yeah.
And it was the choices, like we didn't get clean by accident, we got clean by choice. It just didn't happen. We actually had to have a momentary lapse of reason.
Yeah.
Where we made a decision like, I've had enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
I need to change this.
Yeah.
Because mine was either change or die.
Yeah.
Because I was at a point where I either killed myself or got clean.
Same.
I couldn't use any more. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to myself.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That moment of clarity. I hope I never forget it.
Yeah.
I was, like I can tell you, it was like roughly the end of January 2011, which is a few months before I got clean. But I was a mess, and I had tried to knock myself a few times, and I was standing on a train platform. I'd just been told by my mother, who was a loving, caring woman and probably enabled me for 20 years. She said, you can't stay here. But she'd had enough.
Yep.
For her own self-preservation.
Yeah.
I remember her saying, I can't do this anymore, mate. Go and die somewhere else.
Yes.
She said, go and die somewhere else.
You imagine as a parent.
And it was raining. It was a Sunday night. Like, I'm carrying 2 bags. My missus and kids lived a kilometre away. I wasn't allowed there either.
Yeah.
And I had this moment where I thought, like, you've got this wife and kids especially, and these substances. You've been trying for, 20 years. You can't have both.
Yep.
One's got to go.
Yep.
And that was a moment of clarity for me. And that was the start of put shivers through me, a start of a journey. The next day, I went to the methadone clinic and pleaded. People said, you got to help me. Like, I got to go to rehab. I got to get there soon. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And they helped me over that next 8 weeks, get from 70 on the dome down to 30, go to HADS, ring rehabs, walked into a rehab on the 7th of April, 2011.
Yep.
And I've been clean ever since. But that night on the train platform, I was going to jump in front of an express train. 9:37 it was coming through.
Yep.
I remember every detail.
Yeah, cool.
And I was standing in the rain and I screamed out at like a god that I actually didn't believe in at the time to fucking come down here and fight me. Like, I'm dying down here. I need help. And something happened to me that night. Because the next day I went and asked for help.
Yeah, that's, it's freaky because this is not the first time I've heard your story. This is not the first time I've heard that story by 100 different people.
Yeah.
I have a similar story, as you know. In 1981, when I first got off the drugs, I got arrested. It was the first time I'd ever been clean. It was the first time I'd ever been drug-free. I was in Belconnell Remand Centre waiting extradition back to New South Wales because I was already wanted in New South Wales because I was bailed to the rehab and I wasn't supposed to leave the rehab. And I had a couple of beers and then I took a couple of pills and then I stole a car. Then I crashed the car and then the police came and I stole the police car. And so I'm sitting in Belconnell Remand Centre. That was in 1982, my last drink. And I thought, I can't get clean, you know. I can't get clean and I can't continue to use because I'd been clean for 10 months. So I'd had this gift of recovery. And I planned to hang myself on the Saturday morning in Belconnen Remand Centre. And the girl that I'd left the rehab with some weeks before that, months before that, a couple of months before that, came to visit me. She'd gone back to the rehab. Well, I got arrested. She went back to the rehab. And she came to visit me on the Saturday morning. She said, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? She goes, and I'd lost a child through my active addiction, you know, like I didn't know him. And I was like, oh my God. And I went back to the yard where I was going to hang myself, or I planned to hang myself, and I'd already worked out where I was going to do it. And I didn't do it, you know, and I had a momentary lapse of, okay, you're going to have to give this a red hot crack, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't stay clean from that day, but from there I had a willingness. I had a desire.
Yeah.
The first time in my life I had a desire.
Yeah.
And my next two relapses were both based on arrogance and ego.
Mm.
And they were very short relapses, but they were very painful, very painful. You know, like when I say short relapse, my last relapse was for 5 months and I was on the dome. But yeah, I believe there is some sort of divine intervention. And I hear that so much in people that have got their lives together and stayed clean, you know. So today you still have a relationship with your children?
Yep, solid relationship. They're both at home. Like, you know, when we talk about the ripple effect of harm in active addiction, but I love the ripple effect of recovery.
Yeah.
You know, in recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm fortunate enough that I think, you know, although it sounds a little sad, when I got clean and those two girls come to live with me, they're only 12 and 14, that because I could be in and out of their lives on any given day and I could go to the shop and get locked up or not come home or off on a bender.
Yeah.
But when they came to live with me, they came, you know, they were a big part of my early recovery.
Yep.
Partly because I don't think they wanted to let me out of their sight because they didn't know if I was coming home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the stuff I hear come out of their mouths, the support they give to friends of theirs their age, like addiction, you know, is everywhere.
Yep.
You know, and my kids, as a result of me getting clean and them just being exposed to a new way to live, they're able to offer support, advice, friends of theirs going through the same shit, chaos, or just starting on the journey of drama. And,
they're a lot
like,
more
it's
loving
amazing.
and caring than the usual teenage,
they are.
early 20-year-old children.
Yeah, they are.
And they're fully aware of both sides of it. They know that, you know, as you know, I have a child in recovery and I have other children not in recovery. All my children know my story. I've never hidden my story from my children.
Yeah.
I don't hide my story from anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it either. My story is my story. You know, it's
not either.
What I did is not who I am.
No.
You know, and who I am is not what I'm doing. You know, like what I'm doing today, I believe is who I am. You know, I carry a message of hope, faith, strength, trust, and I don't wish ill will on anybody. You know, even people that I've had fallouts with it over the years, and you know, in the old days, you know, because you know, I just want to touch on this quickly. People talk about gangsters. You know what I mean? Like, we're in Australia. You know, like we don't really have gangsters. No. You know, really. Let's be honest. You know, you have gangs and you have crews that work together. You know, that, like organised crime crews these days more so. You know, the motorbike gangs of the gangs, the only gangs. You know, when I grew up as a young fella, the motorbike gangs weren't really popular for us, and they weren't criminals like they are today, of course. But you know, it's funny now when people go, "Oh, he's gangster," and I go, "No, you know what gangster is? The guy that's putting food on the table for his children, the guy that's paying the bills, the guy that's not beating his wife and his wife's not afraid of. That's a gangster. That's the OG. That's the original gangster to me today. You know, the original gangster to me today is the guy that's fronting up, facing up. You know, when he doesn't want to, when he can't, when he's sick, and he still gets up and he goes to work. You know, and he puts his family first, and he puts his children first, and he puts the community first. You know. That's gangster, you know, this stuff with gangster shit, you know, that's all rubbish.
But it's the complete opposite of my thinking in active addiction.
Yeah.
You know, I was so, you know, when I think it's not just this, I was so delusional that I'd look at people with normal lives and happy that Joe Blow citizen and think like he was a stiff or there was something wrong with him.
Yep.
And I had some shit worked out.
Special.
Like I was so fucking delusional.
So special. Yeah.
You know, and now like my whole view of what a man was just distorted.
Yeah. Yep.
From what I sort of learnt from, you know, like 12 to 16 in a neighbourhood and who I looked up to and my role models. I didn't really have like male role models in my family.
Yep.
So I looked to local, you know, people in the area.
The hoodlums, the ones with the nice cars and the girlfriend and the
mad
gold
cars.
chains.
They were 17, 18. Yeah. They were doing drugs.
In and out of jail.
Nice cars. Just, it was all just
coming out all pumped up.
And I actually, but at 12, 13, not that I thought that was cool. I just thought that's what a man was, or that's what life was.
Yeah.
When I think back, like I had that judge, this female judge in Brisbane that sentenced me in 1999, I remember her saying to me, "You're the master of your own destiny.
Yeah.
And you're destined to spend the rest of your life in and out of prison." Anyway, she sent me off to prison. Mm-hmm. I didn't really hear that for another like 11 years.
Yep.
When I was in that third rehab at 40 years of age, someone said something one day and that memory came back to me about destiny. I was like, fuck, I remember that judge tried to tell me that when she sent me to the Nick in 99.
Yeah.
I'm the master. I'm in control of whatever happens. You know, and
it's lovely.
Once you sort of, I mean, don't mean control, but once I surrendered to the fact that...
You've got to own it before you can change it.
Yeah.
You got to take responsibility.
I am glad that shit got as bad as it did at the end there, because, you know, if it didn't, like, I don't think it would have lasted much longer.
That's why.
But I was just willing to do whatever it took, or whatever other people. You know, the thing with hope for me is, with hope, people talk about like hope, hold on, pain ends. But what I remember being really young in and out of program and hearing hope, meaning hearing other people's experience. Because I actually didn't believe that much. I didn't trust everyone just because they sounded like they were clean and that. I was still pretty sus on people.
Yep.
But when I heard other people talk about a life that was similar to mine and the same shit was going on for them, that's where I got. And I just thought, fuck, if he can do it.
Yeah. I knew my thinking was bad. I knew my thinking was bad because I'd lay in prison after I'd been in there for 4 or 5 years, still thinking I should have turned left instead of if I'd have got left, I would have got away, and I should have done this. Like, you're 4 years into a lagging.
Yeah, you got pinched.
No good at thinking about I should have turned left.
You got pinched.
You know, so my thinking was bad, but that's why today I believe we have to rewire. And, you know, today we have computers, so we understand information, we understand data, you know, because I'm an old guy, you know, I'm not really computer literate and all that. No, so, you know, people used to say in the late 90s, early 80s, oh, they're trying to brainwash me, you know. And I have a friend of mine, he was in a detox in Parramatta years ago, and the counsellor there was a guy that I got clean with originally in 1981. He was quite a smart mouth. And my mate Wayne said to him, you're trying to fucking brainwash me. And Brad said to Wayne, it was really nice, he goes, Brain, if I wanted to brainwash you, he said, I'd spit on a tissue. In other words, that's how small your brain is today.
Yeah.
And Wayne's now 34 years clean. So, you know what I mean? So Brad spitting on the tissue rang true for him because Wayne realised that his brain was was cooked, you know. His brain was no good. You know, there was no good. And, I'm going to have Wayne on a podcast soon. He'll be a good podcast because I'm the godfather to his daughter. She's 30. Wayne's 38 years clean. He's clean longer than me because I was helping him get clean when I relapsed. Then I detoxed on his floor.
Yeah. You've told me that.
Then I detoxed on his floor. It's so cute. It's so nice.
You know, I think it's amazing that, you know, I've had stuff, just normal life stuff happen in the last couple of weeks. You know, like yesterday was the anniversary of my younger brother that just died in a car accident like 7 years ago. But, and I'm okay. But the thing, what recovery's also taught me is I can process whatever feeling comes up for me.
Yep.
And you know what? That's not I couldn't process anything I didn't need a reason to use.
Yeah.
Well, when I hear people talk about their triggers, I'm triggered as
My
soon as
trigger
my
was
eyes
breath.
my eyes open.
Yeah.
I have to use as soon as my eyes open in the mornings. To be able to process uncomfortable feelings was what I was incapable of doing for most of my life. So I didn't. I just used them away.
Yeah.
And going through emotional stuff now, even though it can be painful, there's another part of me that's really thankful for the experience. You're feeling shit.
Yep.
You're not dribbling on yourself in an ashtray. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I used to joke about my favourite state is with my head in an ashtray.
Yeah.
What a horrible way. Like, I lived like that for 21 years.
Yeah.
Sticking fits in my arms and nodding off in front of my wife and kids.
Yeah. Being woken up at the traffic lights, someone bit the horn behind you because you've gone on the nod.
Yeah. Or I've smashed into the car in front of me because I've gone on the nod.
Mine was the driving.
And then I abuse them and take off.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, mine was the driving. Guy knocking on the window like, what? Yeah, mate, no, not one car in the whole driving. Mate, the movie's finished.
Movie finished half an hour ago.
And my girl and I both had nodded off, probably within 3 minutes of being parked at the driving. I don't think I've ever seen a movie in active addiction.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen the end of a movie in active addiction.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it's the same for me.
Yeah.
My missus and I always watch movies and I get halfway through and I go, I've seen this.
Yes.
But I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah.
I just probably got woken up by someone and saw 2 minutes of it.
God, I've seen a lot of movies a lot of times and I go, I've seen this. Whereas I'd watch it nearly all the way through and I'd go like, I've seen this before. I could watch the same movie 12 times and watch it once,
Oh, it's horrible.
But, it's so blessed, but it's so blessed to be clean. And, it is possible. And it's really important that people know that, recovery is a choice. You do have a choice. Now you go, I don't have a choice. Well, you do. You do have a choice. You just don't pick up one day at a time. You find out what works for you. There's lots of different ways of getting clean. There's lots of variations of what people call clean. There's harm reduction. There is maintenance programs, but I believe they're a band-aid. But it is harm reduction. It doesn't matter what it takes as long as you understand that there is a way out. And the most important thing for me is you've got to recognise that you've got a problem. Until you own it, you can't change it. That's the biggest thing. You hear me say that all the time. Until you own it, you can't change it. Yeah. And change is just a decision. And then you do the hard work. Big deal. Big deal. It's a lot easier to stay clean than it is to get on.
Yeah, it is like the energy. It was just, I don't know. It's tiring.
Yeah.
It's tiring. And, this sounds terrible, but when my kids were little, and I used to get up early, kids were up early, I used to go to work, I used to have lots of days off. I don't have any reason to not go to work, do you know what I mean? And just fuck it, I'm not going. And my kids started asking their mother that every morning, the first thing that Dad says when he wakes up in the morning, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like you can hear him from the bedroom.
You're woken up again.
And that was me opening up our eyes, being conscious and going, oh.
Again.
Fuck, here we go again. And I think I did that for a bit over the last 10 years. Like the first 15 years of addiction, painful. But that last 10, I just wake up and wouldn't want to be awake.
Yeah, I know it well. I know that one well. Wake up and I used to wake up and think, I wish I could wake up today.
Yeah, not woken up.
Yeah, who am I going to rob?
Yeah.
Where am I going to get on?
It just starts.
And, let the games be. And it didn't matter if I had dope. Because I never had enough dope.
Yeah.
Because I had to get on, to get on, to get on, to get on.
The disease of more.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had friends I used to do armed robberies with. And, they weren't addicts. They'll drunks or something, but they can't use as much as I used to. And we'd do an armed robbery and I'd say, mate, see you tomorrow. We'll do another one. He'd go, mate, we've just got a heap of money. I'd say, mate, I need more.
Won't last long.
Yeah. It's only going to buy me a couple of ounces. I'm going to be, a few days' time, I'm going to be broken. Because I always had a hostage, a girl that used with me. So I was feeding two habits. Yeah. So, and what I called stone was unconscious.
Yeah.
To me, stoned is not conscious, not feeling, not awake. Like enough to burn your arm with a cigarette that you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
I got scars all over my fingers and
Done it
arms.
heaps of times.
It's sad.
Done it heaps of times. Like everything in our house had pinhole burn. You know, the inevitable
Every
pinhole
carpet, every
burn.
bed had burned, every jumper.
And even when I think about, appreciating life and, missing loved ones and that, like I never felt any of that stuff in active addiction. I think about it now, like I just had no respect for my own life. How could I possibly have any for anybody else's? Yeah. I remember losing mates to mine to like heroin overdoses, and I'm standing there in their funeral at the cemetery, and then we jump in the car and have a shot.
Yep.
That's how I deal with it.
Yeah, that's how you deal with everything.
He died. I think I need a pretty big one too, because that was horrible.
Yeah, and I used to say it for
the insanity.
I was toasting him.
Yeah,
brother, this one's for you, bro. This one's for you, brother.
Yeah.
Like
how insane.
Yeah.
That is, and that I didn't want to wake up, or what that would just the disrespect. Like I was granted with gifts in my life, to have a wife that I really did love, kids that I brought into the world.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best times, being there the day my kids were born was like, one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah.
But there weren't many great experiences in my life.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? And then I can say the words like, love you, and I do mean it. But I'm actually incapable of following through. When I'm using, I'm just not of sound mind.
Yeah, that's what they say now. It's a mental health issue.
That's not why of sound mind.
When you do your drug and alcohol courses, search for drug and alcohol and mental health.
Yeah, mental health. Yeah,
and mental health.
Yeah,
drugs. It
is.
It's now starting to become recognised as a mental health problem. So it's not a moral issue.
No,
it's not a social issue. It's a medical issue that we have to address. And we have to get it out there that people understand that there is hope. There is hope. There is help. Just one day at a time. And look, Marky, it's been really, really lovely having you here. I appreciate you coming over and spending your time with me. Today is a bit different. We're both here in the office together. I respect everything you've done, mate. I love what you do. I know you do a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and but the greatest thing you do is you do things for yourself and your family. And to me, you are the original gangster. Thanks for coming, brother.
Thanks, Ron.
See you, mate.
Thank you.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.